Hi, welcome in. Yeah, come on in, come on in. Hi. Hello, welcome. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Radiance free masterclass, where we will be identifying the signs of burnout, how it can be caused by people-pleasing behaviors and tendencies, what causes those people-pleasing behaviors and tendencies, and how to reclaim your inner radiance, transforming from guilt-ridden and on the verge of burnout to self-assured and confident. I am Jess with Awe and Awakening, and I am a recovering people pleaser. Hi. I have spent the better part of a decade really diving in and committing to my inner growth and healing and my inner transformation. I have spent the better part of my life as a people pleaser, deeply entrenched in the patterns and behaviors of putting other needs before mine, and then resulting in a complete emotional overwhelm, physical exhaustion, general burnout, feeling like I'm drowning under the weight of responsibilities and expectations while feeling guilty for ever wanting to pour time or energy back into myself or to explore any of my own personal interests. And I am so passionate about sharing the tools that I have found through self-discovery and different kind of healing modalities and practices that have helped massively on my inner journey, helping me to reframe my ways of behaving and believing about both myself and other people in the world, about shifting the ways of relating after becoming a single mother and struggling terribly with both mental and emotional health, and then working through Lyme disease and then adding the physical factor on there. I was most days nothing but a crying puddle on the floor, and it took a lot of um, intentional practice and connection to hone in and connect into myself and realize what my wants were, what my needs were, what I needed to feel safe, establishing healthy boundaries and identifying where I end and someone else begins, along with cultivating a sustainable self-care routine. Um, that has helped immensely on my healing journey. And so I am so passionate about encouraging, letting anyone else know that transformation is possible. As deep in as you may feel right now, or as overwhelmed and exhausted and burnt out as you may feel, there is hope and there is transformation that is possible, that can take half an hour a day, that can start in 5 minutes a day, that can start in a shift of awareness and mindset and small daily actionable steps that can build on top of each other to cultivate massive shifts and massive changes. So before we jump into the content of the masterclass, where again, we will be identifying the signs of burnout, how that can be caused by people-pleasing tendencies, diving into the whys behind people-pleasing as a survival mechanism, and then unpacking the how of recovery into practical, daily, actionable steps. But before we do that, I'd like to invite you just to take a moment to tune in, to check in with your body, to tune into your breath and just get a feel for what is happening inside your body. So relaxing your shoulders down away from your ears, wherever you're at. If you feel safe and comfortable to do so, closing your eyes down. Just taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhaling out of your nose. Noticing if your breath comes easy or if it's harder to breathe. If your mind is relatively calm or if your thoughts are racing. Not trying to fix, change, or judge anything, just allowing it to be present, just observing. Continuing to breathe a fuller than normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, just taking a general scan of your physical body, of your mental body, of your emotional body, if there's any feelings or emotions that are present. Maybe you're feeling exhausted. Maybe you're feeling tired. Maybe you're feeling anxious. Maybe you're thinking, I don't have time for this. Give me practical steps so I can change where I'm at. Maybe you're excited. And just bringing to mind why you chose to show up for this masterclass, what it is you're hoping to change in your life, or how you're wanting your life to look different, or what you're hoping to get out of this next hour. Taking one more deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And just staying with that feeling, just keeping it in the back of your mind as we move through the course or through this session today. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen here. Let me see if I can figure this out. There we go. Okay, can you see that? Perfect. Okay, so again, this is the Reclaim Your Radiance Masterclass with me, Jess from All One Awakening. We are unpacking the why of people pleasing as a survival mechanism and how it leads to burnout and breaking down the how of recovery. So a little bit more about me. I was raised by people pleasers and lived for the better part of my life, lived for 3 decades of my life, subconsciously living at the whim of others' approval, constantly looking outside myself for external validation, love, approval, support, and trying to convince myself that I didn't care what people thought of me. However, the delusion was not successful. And the depth of the connection that I cultivated within myself by constantly quieting my needs and shutting down what it is that I really wanted, quieting my true self, it reached into every aspect of my life, into connections with my friends, with my families, in romantic relationships, in my professional relationships. I had no boundaries, no self-worth, no respect for myself, no reference point for what I even really, truly wanted. The disconnection that is the base, the foundation for people-pleasing tendencies is very real, and I have lived it. I know what that means, and I know how that looks in your own personal connection, relationship with yourself and with others. And I have spent the better part of a decade committed to my personal growth and healing. And the transformation I've experienced has been both life-changing and immensely liberating. And now I am so passionate to share what I have learned in hopes of empowering and encouraging others in shifting their validation, their source of validation inward, and to embody your inner badass, completely reclaiming the inner radiance that you hold within you. So just some basic signs of early signs of burnout. So avoiding burnout, both emotionally, mentally, physically, by recognizing early signs that you're on the fast track to burnout and how to course correct. So one really big sign is just emotional irritability. If you're finding yourself really short, really reactive in situations and conversations, maybe a good sign that you need to take a pause and check in with what you're needing to fill your well and to fill your cup, both mentally and energetically, so that you are able to respond instead of react. So when you're lacking the capacity to respond and you find yourself reactive in conversations, is a good sign that it's maybe time to check in and see what patterns or what routines need to change, or what can be changed to avoid the track that you're on. And realizing that compassion fatigue is a very real thing. When you are completely run down emotionally, mentally, lacking compassion is a good sign that something is not okay, that there needs to be something addressed and looked at before it gets worse. And so along with the irritability is just exhaustion on all levels, the mental exhaustion, the physical exhaustion. Irritability and compassion fatigue is a symptom of emotional exhaustion. So think of yourself having a fully charged battery. And if you're continually depleting your battery, never charging yourself up, never filling into yourself, you're gonna burn out. You're going to literally run out of juice because you are draining your battery. And so severe fatigue, feeling drained and depleted on all levels, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and finding what it is that you need to fill those levels. And we will get more into that in the hows of people pleasing recovery, because at the base of that is connection. You have to be connected with yourself to know what it is that you need to fill up your battery. And at the root of people pleasing, we know, is disconnection from yourself and your needs. So it can be hard to identify those sometimes. So in shifting, what you can do to course correct if you feel yourself on the fast track to burnout is establishing healthy boundaries, finding where you end and others begin, and keeping your mental focus on the things that you can control, the things that you have power over, the things that are in your sphere of influence, and realizing that healthy boundaries are formed through self-love and self-respect, which again comes from knowing yourself, loving yourself, honoring yourself, which can be really hard for a lot of recovering people pleasers. And seeking help, asking for help. If you realize that you feel like you're drowning or feel like you are becoming depleted, that your battery is running low and you're not sure how to charge it, but you know that it's getting low, ask for help. Lean into vulnerability and by cultivating the safety to be vulnerable, to speak up, to say that you need help, and allowing others to help you when you need it. It is more than okay to ask for help. It is crucial for survival, much less healing. If we are looking for any healing or change or shift to occur, we are likely going to need help in facilitating that. So we are not meant to be in isolation. We are not meant to do life on our own. We are meant to be in community and to have help from others. So getting into the whys of people pleasing, realizing that people pleasing patterns are a behavior, or people pleasing patterns of behavior are a survival mechanism. And at some age, we decided that it was not safe to feel what you were feeling, or it was not safe to express your authentic self or your authentic feelings. And so the people-pleasing behaviors were adopted into ways of being, behaving, relating in order to gain the love and acceptance that was perceived to be a requirement for love, for being a part of the community, a part of the group. And knowing that you cannot heal, change, or shift what you do not accept, it is so crucial to acknowledge the lack of safety that cultivated this behavior pattern. So knowing that people pleasing is a result of lack of emotional safety at a young age is crucial to cultivating that safety in your nervous system now, to cultivating the safety to feel, to be with the emotions that have been shut down and locked away and disconnected from for so long. So before you can heal any issue, you've got to acknowledge that there is an issue to heal. So acknowledgement is huge. As a survival mechanism, there is a lack of emotional safety. And so again, that survival mechanism is kicking in to keep you safe. So knowing that there is a certain way that you can be, or a certain thing that you can say, or a certain way that you can act in order to get the love and approval and acceptance of the group, of typically the early childhood family dynamic, and realizing that being in this constant state of survival mode is constantly activating the fight or flight, or please and appease, which is the fawn. So in the fawn state of constant activation, your nervous system is so completely activated and overwhelmed with stimulation of just the adrenaline of trying to survive and trying to remain a part of the group. There is no cognitive thought. There is no rational brain activity. And typically all of this happens, all of these core beliefs and subconscious patterns that are programmed by these core beliefs and early childhood experiences are formed before the prefrontal cortex is even online. So there is no cognitive, logical rationale happening. This is all completely survival mode. And so this has kept you safe. It got you to where you are now. You have used these ways of behaving and relating with others in the world to survive, and it worked. You are here. And now maybe those patterns of behaving, of believing, of relating are no longer serving you. Now they're holding you back from your highest potential, or holding you back from expressing your authentic self, your needs, your wants, your desires, and realizing the effects of the continual shutdown of your emotions, of the connection with yourself, leads to prolonged disconnection, which leaves you out of touch with your wants, with your needs, ultimately with yourself. And this disconnection that is being cultivated internally is then reflected in your external world, in your relationships with others, with your friends, with your family, in your romantic and professional relationships. And this also tends to lead to a lack of boundaries. And so seeing how this plays out in family dynamics, how the lack of boundaries, how the lack of connection to yourself, we will get more into that in the next piece, and realizing, so the recovery is remembering that at the core of people-pleasing behavior is disconnection, disconnected from your wants, from your needs, ultimately from yourself, and that repairing that connection to yourself is crucial for healing. Because through connection, we can cultivate safety, which we know safety was not cultivated in early childhood, which triggered the survival mechanism of people-pleasing behaviors. So practical steps is to stop playing nice. Be kind, don't be nice. Being nice tends to be driven from an external source of validation, whereas being kind stems from more of an internal place of solid self-love and the ability to extend that loving kindness out to others, where it's much easier to fake nice than it is to fake kind, where kindness has more of a sense of boundaries and self-love rather than trying to gain approval or acceptance from someone else. And cultivating awareness, especially inner awareness, by bringing attention to your daily choices and becoming aware of your body sensations when you're making decisions or having conversations or in the presence of someone. How does your body feel? Because your body never lies. Your body holds the truth, and your body is constantly sending you messages. And sometimes it's just a little bit harder to hear the messages if we are distracted, if we have blocks and static and interference in our bodies to hear those messages clearly. And cultivating inner safety is key for healing. And cultivating that safety through connection. So remembering that safety is the foundation for growth and healing. Safety is vital for transitioning from survival mode to thriving. So there is no healing in survival mode. Your brain is completely focused on surviving. There's no growth, there's no healing, there's no forward movement. We're not thinking about thriving. We're not worried about how we can live our best life. We are just trying to live life, period. And so lack of emotional safety tends to lead to a high threshold of pain, a high pain tolerance. Most people that have endured early childhood trauma have a very high threshold for pain and for hyperindependence. There tends to kind of swing from one pendulum to the other. And we oftentimes perpetuate the cycle of childhood dynamics in our adult lives or in our relationships with friends, with lovers, with coworkers, and typically tends to be unhealthy types of love attachments, and realizing again that the emotional disconnect that is cultivated within yourself ripples out into every area of your relationships on every level of your life, and realizing the lack of intimacy, both with yourself or with others, that stems from the lack of safety and the lack of trust that is cultivated both internally and externally in your relationships. And ways that emotional safety can, or the lack of emotional safety can manifest in your daily life, especially in your relationships to others, is codependency. So having a strong reliance on someone else, someone outside of you, a friend, partner, to provide safety, typically to provide emotional safety, because again, that was not a given when you were young. And oftentimes, what goes along with codependency, especially in early childhood family dynamics, is enmeshment. So family systems with little to no boundaries. When one person experiences emotional distress or big feelings, everyone experiences emotional distress. So again, the lack of boundaries, the lack of self, that lack of disconnection, or the lack of connection to yourself, being firmly rooted in your own identity and having healthy boundaries. This can manifest, lack of emotional safety can manifest as different forms of escapism, including being a workaholic, spending all of your time, energy, resources into your job by avoiding feelings that are uncomfortable, whether your own feelings or feelings in a relationship dynamic. So using it as escaping from everyday life and avoiding discomfort, avoiding uncomfortable feelings. Can also lead to unhealthy attachment styles. So ultimately, the lack of emotional safety leads to unhealthy attachment with yourself, which again is then mirrored into unhealthy attachment styles in partnership with your family, with your friends, typically again with a lack of firm boundaries and with a lack of connection to what your wants and needs even truly are. And then getting into more of the cultivating the safety is realizing that safety, yes, is crucial to healing, but safety is cultivated by trust. And trust is cultivated through connection. And connection is cultivated through time and presence. So if you're trying to build this internal safety, you're trying to build safety in your nervous system, you've got to establish trust with yourself. And to establish trust, you've got to repair that connection through intentional time and presence, spending time with yourself, spending time getting to know yourself, spending time getting to know what your wants, needs, and what your true expression is, what is it that you want, using those people-pleasing skills that you have that you can use on other people to, get to like you, or in efforts to get them to like you, using those on yourself. So if you were someone that you're trying to gain your own approval, how would you act? What would you do to make you like you? So again, huge piece of people-pleasing recovery is connection to yourself and cultivating this through awareness. So just paying attention to what your body is saying throughout the day, in relationships, in conversations, when you're around people, what happens in your body? How do you feel? Paying attention to what your body is saying. Cultivating self-love. So self-love, not just in kind of treating yourself to treats, although that is also important and great to do nice things for yourself. Self-love as a form of radical self-acceptance, of truly loving and accepting every piece of you that ever has been, that is, that ever will be, and loving yourself enough to know your worth and know your value, to know what you will and will not accept, and establishing healthy boundaries based on that self-worth. If you loved yourself and respected yourself as much as you love and respect your best friend, if your best friend is telling you about this guy that they've been seeing that isn't treating them right, and you can tell them all day the healthy boundaries to set, say that in front of a mirror, reflect that back to yourself, reflect that love and that respect and validation back to yourself that you extend to others. So again, as cliche as it sounds, it really all boils down to loving yourself enough to know, honor, and respect your worth, radically accepting yourself to provide your own source of validation and support. Establishing healthy boundaries, again, finding where you end and others begin, and viewing boundaries as an area of expansion rather than a wall of restriction. So coming back to the high levels of pain tolerance that recovering people pleasers tend to let this, unacceptable behavior go way farther than it needs to before setting the boundary of like, okay, now it's cut off. I'm not going to accept this. But instead of thinking of what you will not accept, thinking of what you will accept, thinking of what feels the most supportive and using that as a boundary, thinking of of boundaries as supportive rather than restrictive. So instead of what you're trying to keep out, what are you trying to keep in? Like, I feel most supported when there's no yelling. When you're not yelling at me, that's when I feel the most supported. So that's my boundary. I'm going to feel support when there's no yelling, or I'm going to feel support when there's open and honest communication. That's when I feel the most free to love, the most open, the most free to be vulnerable, and the most supportive in relationships. So using those boundaries as a tool for support and expansion rather than restriction, and shifting your confirmation bias. So we are hardwired with a confirmation bias, meaning that we are constantly looking for sources of validation in our external world to confirm what we think. So if we think that if we're living in a scarcity mindset and we don't think that we have enough money, we're going to continually find areas and examples and situations that confirm to us that we do not have enough money. And if I think, you know what, I am so loved and supported, I'm going to more automatically find ways to remind myself to confirm that bias, that thought that I have is that I am loved and supported. So looking for daily confirmation of ways that you are safe, supported, secure, and focusing on those experiences. So getting just, small shifts in awareness to kind of route a new neural pathway and the way that our brains work. And so remembering again that at the core of people-pleasing behavior is disconnection. And we know that safety is foundation for healing, and for cultivating connection, we need trust. And so for trust, we know that that is a building block for safety. There is no safety without trust. And we know that trust is cultivated through connection and is so crucial for healing, and understanding that the effects from the lack of trust, especially the prolonged lack of trust, tends to result in lack of confidence, low self-worth due to lack of sense of self. So that disconnection from yourself leading to not even knowing who you are. So how can you love someone that you don't know? How can you respect someone that you don't know? Lack of trust generally leads to mental distress and anxiety. You have a higher chance of being disconnected from your intuition because you're not listening to yourself. You're not connected into yourself. So realizing that burnout not only affects mental and emotional well-being and health, but lack of safety or lack of trust, which leads to lack of safety, also results in mental and emotional well-being not being great. So you've got a couple of things stacked against you in the mental and emotional health arena, and finding ways to shift those to finding support for your mental and your emotional health through the healing journey. So understanding the lacks or effects from the lack of trust can ripple out as a disconnection in your relationship again, as that is mirrored outward into your external relationships. And so this can manifest as lack of direction. So ignoring your wants and needs over time can lead to a deep sense of lack of self and lack of direction in life, leading you or causing you to depend on others for direction, leaning on others' input, on others' wishes, whether it's your parents or your peers doing what they want rather than what you want, which might feel okay until 5, 10 years down the line, you think, you know what, I've never wanted to do this. I was always doing this because someone else wanted me to do it, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's someplace you're living. If you're not connected in with yourself, it's generally not going to be fulfilling in the long run. So again, lack of trust leads to anxiety, to anxious thoughts. So family systems with little to no boundaries can cause fear-based thinking, which anxiety is fear of typically of the future. So people pleasers, great at planning for the future, great at planning every possible outcome in order to know the best thing to say, the best way to act, how to gain approval and acceptance by going through all of the best and worst case scenarios in order to be prepared so that you are not met with this option or this threat of being rejected. So anxious thoughts can also negatively affect mental health when there is a lack of trust, there is a lack of safety, and that leads the lack of or the poor mental health, the effect on mental health can lead to a breakdown in trust, which leads to crippling mental health issues, anxiety, depression, mood disorders, and all of this can be healed, can begin to heal through cultivating trust and safety in your nervous system. After I became a single mother a little over 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar depression, was told that I would be on medication for the rest of my life just to mitigate the effects of the imbalance of chemicals in my brain. I was on mood stabilizers. I tried antidepressant after antidepressant, SSRIs, MAOIs, all the different kinds of antidepressants. And as much as I was resistant to pharmaceuticals, I knew that I needed help and I was willing to try anything. And I tried just about everything. I have tried pharmaceuticals, I've tried homeopathics, I've tried herbal supplements, I've changed my diet, I've tried lovers, I've tried drugs, I've tried medicine ceremonies, I've done all the things. And now after, so I guess it was about three-ish years ago, finding breath work and quite literally saved my life. And so now almost 2 years of not being on any medication and feeling the most emotionally stable as that I have in I can't even remember when, and realizing that my emotional and energetic capacity has expanded so much that I'm able to hold so much more than I was, ever as a mom, but even before becoming a mom, because I have such a strong sense of self and I am so much more rooted in myself. I've cultivated that connection, the trust and the safety, and my mental and emotional health has just flourished because of it. So all of that to say, I just want to say all of that just to encourage you that healing is possible, that change is possible, that embarking on the healing journey is probably one of the hardest trips that you will ever take. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is so more than worth it. If you want to change the way that you're living, if you want to live a more free, a more full, a more joy-filled life, it is worth the journey. So also realizing that a harsh inner dialogue, a really harsh inner critic can be an effect from prolonged lack of trust. So people-pleasing tendencies generally fuel core beliefs of I'm not good enough or my true self won't be accepted. And these core beliefs feed the flame, they feed the fire of negative self-talk and a harsh inner critic. And so finding ways that you can be more aware of when that inner critic is coming online, of when you're speaking harshly to yourself and trying to find ways to shift that dialogue. Again, extending the kindness, speaking to yourself the way that you would speak to others, because generally our inner dialogue is much more lacks the empathy and lacks the kindness that we would generally extend to others. So remembering that at the core of people pleasing behavior is disconnection from your wants, your needs, yourself, and repairing your inner connection with yourself is crucial to healing. Knowing that disconnection leads to a breakdown in trust, and realizing that it takes time and intentional practice to consistently show up for yourself and repair that ruptured connection that has been disconnected for possibly decades. Typically, it's been a long time that this ingrained pattern of behavior has been happening, and realizing that it takes time to cultivate trust and even longer to repair once it's broken. So trust is not something that just happens overnight. It takes time to cultivate. But if there is connection and that connection, that relationship has been ruptured, has been disconnected, if you're best friends with someone and they completely betray you and they never listen to you and they walk away from you and they don't listen to you for decades, and then they come around and they're like, hey, friend, I actually love you and I want to take care of you. There's going to be typically a bit of resistance to that. And it's going to take time and intentional connection to rebuild that relationship. So again, connection is so crucial to cultivating trust. So cultivating your inner awareness through breath and body-based awareness practices. RBM is a really great modality. That is the style of breath work that I practice and also facilitate. It's rebirthing breathwork mastery that uses a parasympathetic activation of your nervous system, rewiring core beliefs and ingrained patterns of behaving and believing that are stored into your subconscious by activating deep cellular rest on in your nervous system. And other ways of cultivating awareness by listening to your body and just noticing what your body is saying, how your body is speaking to you in the day-to-day experiences, conversations, and cultivating self-love through journaling, through noticing your inner dialogue and shifting when it is less kind than it should be, and connection with your intuition by listening to yourself and honoring what your body is telling you, reconnecting to your inner child, and through inner child meditation, through journaling, from just shifting your intention and your awareness around the time that the disconnection first happened, or that the emotional safety that you needed was not provided, and going back to that time. Not that that's necessary, but just as a way to, again, bring awareness. And so practical steps, again, loving yourself, bringing awareness to when your inner critic is being more harsh, bringing in a sense of compassion, and utilizing tools of self-discovery like the chakra system, the Enneagram, human design, astrology, to bring awareness to areas of your life that may be a good place to begin or focus on your healing journey. And so it's important to remember that living in alignment is not just living your best life, but alignment is like forming an alliance with yourself, or forming an alliance with other people, or forming an alliance with the divine. So living in alignment after you have cultivated the safety and the trust through connection, living in alignment with your wants, living in alignment with your needs, living in alignment with your true authentic expression. And just thought experiment is, how willing are you? How willing are you to change your life? How willing are you to live in alignment? What cost are you willing to pay? Potential costs of living in alignment. Not an extensive list, and not that it will cost you any of these, but if it costs you your friends, are you willing to give up different relationships or attachments in your personal life? Are you willing to give up or change your lifestyle? Are you willing to give up your comfort or your perceived identity? So knowing that ingrained survival mechanisms and trauma responses, if left unhealed, can perpetuate long enough that they become our they can become our perceived identity and sense of self. So healing those patterns of behaving, believing, relating in the world, and disconnecting from holding that source of identity as this survival mechanism, as your personality, shifting that can be hard to decide who am I? What is my identity? What is my personality when living in alignment with my true authentic self, with my needs and wants, and realizing the huge value, the huge benefit in whatever the cost is the effects from living in alignment, which are clarity of purpose and focus as you move through life and move along your path of alignment, can result in grounded confidence in the truth of your identity that is rooted in your true essence, results in healthy relationships that are not forged from a place of lack. You're coming from a place of fullness, and any relationship is an addition that is supplemental. It is not required for your sense of worth or validation, and it can result in a healthy connection to yourself, to others, and to the divine. And living in alignment, connection, or connected to yourself, your authentic, true expression, connected to others, in alignment with yourself, with others, with the divine, can manifest in your life as purpose, knowing that ignoring your wants and needs over time can lead to a deep lack of sense of self and lack of direction in life. And coming back into connection, coming back into alignment brings clarity on your path and on your purpose. It can manifest as confidence. There's grounded confidence rooted in your strong sense of self when you're living in alignment. Manifests as healthy connections because you are able to form healthy connections with others as a result of a healthy connection within yourself. So again, realizing that your external world is a mirror, a reflection of your internal environment. So cultivating that healthy, secure, aligned relationship with yourself so that that can then be mirrored out into your external world. And can cultivate as inner peace. So no anxious thoughts as you are living in full alignment and rooted in the safety and radical acceptance of your internal source of validation. So holding on to that unshakable peace that comes from internal validation and not trying to need, be, act, show up, be perceived in a certain way in order to gain that approval, that acceptance, that safety. So how willing are you to pay the cost of alignment, knowing that full alignment may cost you your comfort, your friends, or your lifestyle? And living in alignment, as with healing, may be one of the hardest journeys and maybe the most important one to make. And the very base of recovery is connection. So balancing your feminine and your masculine energies, knowing that typically the inner masculine, so the inner feminine and masculine energies, everyone has them because the spiritual energies are not defined by gender. So your inner masculine typically comes online to protect you, to keep you safe, to protect that feminine, that more feeling, the more intuitive, the more connected energy when you are young or at whatever age that your emotional safety feels threatened. That masculine can come online, that protector, provider energy, which then leads into typically living in your hypermasculine as an adult. And so not knowing how to express your inner feminine. And while it is a balance, we're not trying to just completely disregard the masculine because it is so important for those two energies to dance together, for the masculine to provide the creative action, to provide the protection, to provide the discipline and the structure for the feminine, intuitive, creative energy. And cultivating that again through self-love and radical self-acceptance, and through presence, through spending time being present with yourself, being present with your emotions, being present with your needs, and doing that through breath and body-based awareness practices, through listening to your bodies, and through being present with yourself on all levels of being: the physical, what's happening in your physical body, any sensations, what feelings or emotions are arising on the emotional level, what thoughts, images, memories are happening on the mental level, both the spiritual and energetic level, holding a holistic view of your body and being present with any and all of your experiences. And so knowing that healing begins with connection to yourself, I want to offer to you an online container of meeting for 21 days of live daily practice. There will be daily lessons about 10 to 15 minutes, and also a daily practice that is about 10 to 15 minutes. And so I just wonder if half an hour a day could change your life, could you find half an hour a day if that half an hour could change your life? And I know that for a lot of people, it's hard to commit to a course. It's hard to commit to showing up, trying to find the time, trying to find the energy, trying to find the money for an online course. For any course is a lot and doesn't feel quite as attainable. But I also want to ask, what would it cost you if you did nothing different? If you continued on the same path, the same trajectory that you are headed down now, what does that look like? Are you on the fast track to burnout? Are you feeling emotionally and mentally exhausted? Are you ready to prioritize yourself? Could you prioritize half an hour a day? We'll be connecting with your inner self in a supported container through guided meditations, through breath work practices, through daily journal prompts. There will be accountability and encouragement in this supportive community of like-minded individuals, recovering people pleasers, journeying together in a community, in a forum where we can share our experiences, share our wins, share where we need support. There will be replays available, and knowing that, it is a self-paced container. There will be daily lives, but you can also watch them all on the replays and you'll have lifetime access. So if you don't even start this until next month, you will not be behind. The best time to cultivate trust in yourself is before it was ruptured, but the second best time is right now. I am going to take a pause. I'm just going to flag this timestamp here. So this will be edited out. There is a special offer for those just on the live of the masterclass, a discount and special bonus. So I'm just going to mark that here. So knowing that for healing to happen and occur, we need safety. So working our way backwards from healing, we need safety. And to cultivate safety, we need trust. And knowing that trust is cultivated through connection. And connection is cultivated through intentional time and presence. So we'll be moving through the next 21 days with intentional time and presence of connecting in with yourself, reconnecting to your inner radiance, and transforming from overwhelmed and on the verge of burnout to radiant, self-empowered, and self-assured. And there will be 2 bonus lives. And so the investment is $333. There are payment plans available. And if you want to sign up, I will drop the link in the chat below here. I'm just going to mark this to edit this out for the replay. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, we'll move into answering any questions that you have. Just pop them into the chat. And you can follow me for more information or for more tips on Awen Awakening on TikTok or Breath Body Jess on Instagram. I also have a free school community, Awen Awakening community, where there is access to like-minded community, encouragement, and support from other recovering people pleasers, from other people on the healing path that have prioritized spiritual health and transformation. There is also access to journal prompts, to meditations, to movement practices, and sound healing, all on the On Awakening School community. I will drop a link for that. That is free to join as well. And thank you all so much for journeying along. We will get into the questions and answers, and I'm not going to record that bit. So I just want to thank you all for journeying along. And there is 1 week to sign up for the Trust Through Connection 21-day live online supported container. We will be starting September 8th through and running through the 28th, and we'll be going live daily with daily courses and lessons and online support.